Welcome to the Real News Network. I'm Sharmini Pires coming to you from Baltimore. September 20th elections in Greece had the lowest voter turnout in modern history. At just 44% of the eligible voters turned out. Some argued that this was because of the battle inside of SYRIZA following the July 5th referendum, where 62% of the population supported not accepting the third bailout package from the creditors, and SYRIZA's defiance of that vote, choosing to proceed with accepting the deal. Now speaking to me about all of this is Michalis Spourdalakis. Michalis is the Dean of the School of Economics and Political Science at the University of Athens. Michalis, thank you so much for joining me today.
From Athens, Greece.
Now, Michalis, I understand that SYRIZA held its first meeting of the Central Committee on Sunday, and you were fortunate to be present. What did the Prime Minister Tsipras say to the Central Committee?
Well, the meeting of the Central Committee lasted for 2 days. It was for the whole weekend, Saturday and Sunday evening. And it was an evaluation of the electoral results, and also they elected the new executive secretariat of the party, a new secretary of the party, which is a temporary, if you like, elections of the collective bodies of the party until the Congress, which is going to take place next February. On the first issue, the party decided that this was a very good result considering the conditions under which it took place, capital controls, the disappointment of the people after the retreat of last July. In other words, the people some people felt betrayed because after the referendum, everybody was thinking that probably we wouldn't have to sign such a severe agreement, and so the whole approach to the election was that the party did very well considering all this.
And just remind us, Michalis, what the results were.
Yeah, the results, if I'm not mistaken, were 36.5, 7.5 points ahead of New Democracy, which was a surprise given that the majority of the opinion polls were showing a very tight fight.
Michalis, the objective of holding a snap election was so that SYRIZA could be consolidated, so that the Prime Minister would have more support in Parliament for the motions that he was bringing about. Did that actually happen?
Yes, it happened, but that was natural after the split of the party, which was another negative condition that the party had to fight for this election. As most of our listeners know, the left platform, a well-organized tendency within the party, fraction of the party, left the party and formed another party, which unfortunately didn't manage to make the 3% threshold and enter the new parliament. So basically, there were not major changes on the tickets of the party, and as one would expect it, most of the people who were left on the tickets agreed that they are going to sign the specific laws following the major agreement signed last July, which one has to keep in mind that it was a result of a coup and a blackmailing from the part of the country's debtors.
Now, Michalis, when the split occurred in August, 53 members of SYRIZA's SYRIZA party walked out and formed Popular Unity. This really created a split, but essentially it also took out some of the left ardent members of the party that was really advocating a exit from the euro, not comply with the demands of the Troika or the European creditors. So what is now left of SYRIZA? And hereby, I mean in terms of the left voices within the party.
Well, listen, I've said before that the comrades who left the party, they were not the most left-wing within the party. They were the most traditional leftists within a new radical left party such as SYRIZA. They were composed by ex-CP members and a number of small Trotskyist organizations, plus a number of nationalists and independent liberal personalities, such as the spokeswoman of the ex-spokeswoman of the House. So, and why I'm saying this is because this section in the party, this tendency in the party, was never very comfortable with the social movements and the presence of the action of the party in the social fields. They never understood the importance of building solidarity networks throughout the country. And they never went beyond the very formal fields of political action, either in the field of social representation, official unions, or in the field of or in outside activity outside the parliament.
Michalis, if that was the case, why then such a low turnout at the polls in support of SYRIZA?
All right, this is a good point. Let's first see about the low turnout. The low turnout, in fact, was about 10%, not more, of the people less. 10% less of the people who voted last January went to the polls this time. Not as the percentage of abstention was not as high as it is said, because it has to do with the way we keep our registration charts, in this country. However, all parties...
Explain that, Michalis. What do you mean by that?
People who are dead, or there are people who have moved, or there are people who are immigrants and left the party, are a part of the registry vote, and then it appears that when they don't appear at the polls, that they abstain. You see, it's not like in the United States or in Canada, where the people register shortly before a major election happens, so you have an up-to-date electoral catalog.
So is the turnout then not the 44% that's being quoted, not compared to the January election that took place this year?
No, not at all. There is a tendency for abstention. One has to underline this, but it's not as huge or as extensive as it is said. It's another 10% of the people who voted last January didn't go to the polls didn't bother to go to the polls. But one has to keep in mind that because of capital controls and because of the poverty, extensive poverty in this country, people didn't have the money to travel in their home cities from the major urban centers to go and vote. So one has to consider these important peculiarities to put everything in perspective. Having said this, SYRIZA lost about 300,000 votes since January. One has to keep that in mind. And all parties lost, regardless of the percentages, lost votes in the recent election. It is a phenomenon. Abstention. It is an important phenomenon that we should look into it, but it's not as huge and as crucial as many people who do not know these details think. Yes, if you look at the full catalogs on which my dead aunt, who died about 30 some years ago at the age of 90, it's on this register, and my friends who didn't have money to go to their village and vote, it looks that only 44% of the people went to the polls, but that's not quite the case.
Michalis, let's take up continuing this discussion in our next segment on the Real News Network. Thank you for joining me for now.